Here.
Councilor Henry F. Lombardi Jr. Councilor N. Teresa Santos.
Here.
Councilor Dennis B. Torana.
Here.
Councilor Bob Miller.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, good evening, everyone. Just like to say a couple. We have only 5 of us here this evening. Council President Sylvia has had a little relapse with a medical issue, so he won't be here tonight, and same thing with Council Lombardi. So we will be continuing some things this evening for those of you that are here for, besides the library budget, for 6 o'clock. We'll be continuing, I'll say this again at 7. We're going to continue one of the presentations, but Council Lombardi, citation for Rudy Everin, the Middletown Youth Wrestling. We are also going to continue the Homestead. We're going to continue.
What number, please?
Homestead is 31.
Thanks, Barbara.
We're going to continue neighborhood stability. We're going to continue that one,
And number?
and that's 32. And we're going to also continue 29 short-term leases because we have 2 folks up here that are here tonight that have to recuse, and we're short 2 people, so that would only leave us 3, which doesn't give us sufficient quorum to vote on, even discuss that topic, so.
And I could say you can do his math, too.
I didn't have, she wasn't my math teacher, but she was a good English teacher. Okay, let's get started. First up is library budget presentation, fiscal year 2019-2020, library and matters related thereto.
Motion to begin said budget presentation.
I get a second.
Barbara?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so Teresa, you certainly welcome this evening, but you certainly have, from a presentation perspective or standpoint, you certainly have some big shoes to fill, and I don't mean to throw that at you, but I just couldn't help it. But I'm sure you'll do a great job.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I'm very pleased to be here tonight. I don't know if anybody could fill Steve Arndt's shoes.
I
And
agree.
He's in a class by his own, so. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Sally Ghosh, who is the Chair of the Library Board of Trustees, and also Thayer Donovan, newly appointed to the Library Board of Trustees.
Welcome.
So thank you very much. And Mary Beth is assisting me, so if you could go to the next slide. Reading with you since 1848. That's, and we're here tonight to present our proposed budget for FY20, and the budget, the operating budget, was approved by the Library Board on March 19th, 2019. So thank you. Next slide, please.
Teresa, may I ask a question for
Yes.
the people in the audience and the newcomers that are here? You made mention of a date, 18.
48.
Where was the library?
The library was on the second floor of someone's barn, actually. I have a whole narrative on that, and at some point, it did go over to Oliphant,
Yeah.
but it did start out on the second floor of someone's barn.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You passed test number 1 tonight.
All right.
Hurdle number 1.
I thought it was important to include our mission statement and our vision for the library, and we are very, very committed to providing clean, inviting surroundings, well-organized, up-to-date collections, access to state-of-the-art technology, friendly, professional service, and well-trained staff committed to excellence. We take our role as representatives of Middletown very, very seriously. And our vision is that we will continue to be an exemplary provider of these services for the free flow of ideas to really create a citizenry that not only uses the library, but nurtures and contributes to the town of Middletown. That's our goal. Thank you. Next slide, please. So I'm starting out with personnel costs. If this looks familiar, I did borrow from Steve Arndt in terms of his format. Our total personnel costs are increased in FY '20 by 0.97%. And if I go down line item by line item, as Steve formerly did, our salary and payroll for, and this is for the 7 days a week. We've had a collective bargaining agreement, which we successfully negotiated, which this council has received. That results in a 5.65% increase in regular salaries. We have overtime, very small increase, actually $20, but it translates to 2.04%. Life insurance, 2.41%. I'm the only one, by the way, that's covered by life insurance as a department head of the town. Health insurance is down 35.76%. The reason it is down is because of attrition. We had a longtime employee retire, and the board, in its foresight to consider everything going forward, decided that we could reduce that full-time position from 35 hours to 25 hours per week. And in doing so, we are not required to provide health insurance or dental, and that's why dental is also down by 39.51%. The volunteer savings contribution, that's the 457 municipal plan that we belong to, that is also down by 7%. Unemployment compensation is 0. We don't have anything, any obligations there. Workers' comp has also come down. I can tell you that we never have workers' comp claims either, and this was a town calculated amount, and it came out to minus 6.82%. I have nobody who is currently in the private retirement program, so that is 0%. FICA and Medicare up 4.53%. Training and development, advertisement, travel and meetings, professional dues and fees. We're requesting level funding, so no increases there. The bottom line is actually a little bit more than $5,000, just about $5,000 increase, which translates to a 0.97% increase for personnel. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take them about this piece. If not, I'll just move along.
What's the pleasure of the council? Do you want to ask questions as we go, wait till the end? We'll just wait till the end.
All right, thank you. Next slide, please. So materials and programs, this is what we do for our community and our library patrons. So the very, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 7 line items from top to bottom, we're asking to be level funded. Those are the software license fees, $4,000. Other programs, this is where we bring in performers to do science programs for the children's department and a whole range of the programs that we offer. And I have another slide which shows you the attendance on that. So we've budgeted $3,000 for that. We also receive some donations, and when I can, I use the donations first. So that's why you see in some previous years, we spent less than that. But we actually, in previous years, Steve would always present you with an 8-year budget. We had always budgeted $5,000. We could see we didn't need to do that anymore, so we dropped it down to $3,000. Shipping and postage, that's $1,200. That's very much in line with what we actually spend. Printing and binding, we don't do that anymore. So there's 0. Now, general office supplies, $9,000. The copy machines expense, $2,300. Small equipment purchase, $5,000. That would include replacing computers, replacing a postage machine. We actually replaced a machine this year that cleans and polishes DVDs and CDs so that when you borrow them, you can actually watch them when you take them home. And so next on the book line item, up a little bit, $45,000. So now we're getting into a line item that increased for books. We're about books, that's what we do. Periodicals, 5,000, and that actually from previous years is down from 8,000. I learned that if I purchased our magazines from Amazon, I saved about 33%, so that's what I've been doing. And we've gone in that direction, and it's worked out very well. Audio visuals, that's DVDs, audio books, which many people borrow, music CDs, $10,000. That's no increase there. The library pass program, those are discount passes that you can borrow with a library card to get free or discounted admission to Roger Williams Park, to the Audubon Society, to the Children's Museum in Providence. We have about 11 passes that we make available. Very popular this week, school vacation week. Patrons love it. So they just borrow their library card. And then digital resources, we've gone up a little bit on that. Now that's the line item. People are very interested in the digital resources. That's the universal class. I've talked about that last year, where people can sign up with their library card and take courses for continuing education. They can get a certificate that they can use, certificate of completion. It helps them with their job searches. Also, if you're interested in downloading books or streaming videos, that's the line item that pays for this. And you're going to see in a following slide just how much that's used. So at the end of the day, we're asking for 4.29% increase with materials and programs and services. That's okay, you can go ahead. So building maintenance administration, negative 2.05%. So just going down, there's all sorts of numbers here, so I'll just start at the top. Waste removal, that's the trash that gets picked up. And in the far right, you see town or board. So that means where you see town, that means that's a number that the town is calculating on our behalf. If you see board, that's a number that the board has made a decision about. So custodial contract, that's our contract for cleaning services as opposed to having a custodian on staff. That's worked out pretty well. It's a 3-year contract, and I get many compliments about the cleanliness of the library, and it should be clean. So that is a good expense for us. Rodent and pest control, that's another good expense. You don't want to know what I found when I started, but I took care of it. Repair and maintenance, that's regular repairs, that's plumbing, that's electrical repairs and HVAC. Put it all together, $16,700, just $200 more than what we asked for last year. Utility and water, we have no control over that. It's up a little. Telephone, same, which goes to show you we're not all making long-distance phone calls using the town's lines. No, we don't. I wouldn't allow that anyway. Utility and sewer, that's up. Alarm maintenance is down 6.54%. In FY18, the actual, the 22,631, I had to replace the alarm, and I did. So now what we have here, what you're seeing here, this is for the cost of monitoring the alarm that we have at the library. This is a security alarm. Also, that's the cost of the coastal electric that comes in and tests our fire alarm equipment. So it's a combination of security and safety that represents. Then insurance liability, that's handled by the trust, so it went up 5%. Now, fortunately, our gas and electric projections are down. You can see 3.33% for gas, and for electricity, 12.5% reduced. So that was good. And then the rest are all, we're asking for level funding. That's custodial supplies, that's the restroom supplies that I buy, the hand towels, We have hand sanitizer, which we use a lot of, and even Kleenex we make available for the patrons. Snow removal, that speaks for itself. Contingencies, you know, things happen. You can see nothing's happened the previous 2 years. That's good. But things happen, and when they do happen, we don't want to come to you and say, oh, you know, we want to be able to handle it. So that's there. And then labor and legal, 8,000. Again, things don't happen often in that category, but if they were to happen, we'd be prepared. And the bottom line is for building and maintenance, it's a minus 2.8%. So this slide actually summarizes things. Also, IT costs are in here. So for personnel costs, again, $521,969, 0.97% increase. Library materials and programs, $121,478, 4.29% increase. IT costs, that's our internet, our connection costs, our software costs, zero. We're just asking to be level funded as same as last year. Building and maintenance, minus 2.05. The bottom line is a 0.8% increase for us next year that we're asking for, which is about almost $7,000 more than this year. So next slide, please. And by the way, part of this is funded by the state. I'll get to that slide too. But here's our annual circulation. So I was telling you a little bit about digital. There's a very, very skinny line you can see in FY08. Our digital circulation, FY8, was 162. So last year, it was 25,235. It's a digital world. It's still a print world, but it's a digital world too. And this is what people are coming to the library and hoping that we have for them, and yes, we do. Our total circulation in FY18, 138,528, and you can see it's been pretty consistent. With that digital growing, I have to admit, I used to use a lot of audio books on CD. Now I use digital. It's very, very convenient, and I don't have to pull over while I'm driving and change CDs. You know, I can just listen straight through. And it's very, very popular. We have 10,195 card holders. Of that group, 6,353 are Middletown residents. Okay, next slide. Thank you. This is our program attendance. So I was talking to you about the programs that we schedule, and we try to do it for all age groups as well. And so early on, you see what our program attendance was between FY08 and FY12, and now from FY13 to FY18, we're pretty proud at and how it's being received and how it's being enjoyed by Middletown, the Middletown community. So, next slide, please. So the IT, the computer subscriptions, we actually are spending. I asked, our line item is for $30,000. We're actually going to spend next year $32,390. But that is assigned to different line items as well. But all of this funding comes from the state to Middletown in the form of the library grant and aid. And this represents our Ocean State Library's membership, which is an annual fee. Annually, the basic fee is $22,891.42. We are required to pay a database fee. It's our contribution. There are statewide databases that cardholders have access to, $2,221.03. Digital books and movies that are purchased by the consortium, we're expected to kick in for that. So, and they charge us. They charge us this. It's determined by population. So $5,412.84. The Envisionware fees, this is for public printing, in which that's a whole nother thing. We collect a lot of revenue that is deposited with the town for printing fees, and our printing fees are very, very cost efficient. There's 10 cents for very, very good black ink on white paper printing, 50 cents for color, which is half the price of what commercial places cost. And they are very good, the printouts. And all of that is deposited with the town, so that $684 actually is paid for out of that. Any cost I have that's associated with printing, I charge to the printing revenue, but we're still doing really, really well with that. And then the self-check licenses, $11.80. So self-check, just like when you go to the supermarket, you can check out your own groceries, not at only at Shaw's, right, but not Stop and Shop. But anyway, we have self-checks in the library. We have 3. It was a great service, particularly for families, because I saw these poor parents, you know, with an armload of books and the little kids, and they're trying to hold on to them, and the kids are running around, and they're worried. They're worried something's going to happen. There goes a child toward the exit. So we put in these self-checks, and now it's a joy. You see the families at the self-check down in Children's or up across from the circ desk, and the mom's holding a child, and they're putting the barcode, and they're doing the zip that's going across the screen. It actually becomes like a little adventure for them, and it's safe. And it takes the hassle out of coming to the library and checking out books for people who have young children with them. It's great. And also, when people are coming in, like on their lunch hour, they need to come in and go. They're just checking themselves out at the self-check, and they're on their way. So that pays for itself, believe me, and that worked out well. So next, okay, thanks. So, you know, it all happens with the website. You can do everything from your home with your library card, but you got to go through our website. If we didn't have a website, none of that would happen. So with the website, you can see what every other library owns by checking the catalog. You can manage your own personal account. You have Wi-Fi in the parking lot, or you come in with your own equipment and just sit down, and you have Wi-Fi. You can stream videos and music from home. It's all free. And, you know, you can place requests for books. You can download. You can get a book from Interlibrary Loan, which comes a distance away. You can even print from home. You just follow the instructions, print, come to the library. There it is. We just print it up for you. We wait till you get there for confidentiality, but you just tell us what you want to do, what name you gave the file, and there's your print job ready for you. So you don't even have to spend all that time in the library doing it. It's very, very convenient. This is all the IT services. And just about all of this, as the note at the bottom, is paid for by the library grant and aid. This is not Middletown taxpayers who are paying for this. They are enjoying this, but they don't have to pay for it. It comes through grant and aid, of course, paying taxes to the state. I know it still comes out of every taxpayer, but it's it's mandated that we pay for these services with the grant and aid that we receive. So Steve, actually, I borrowed from Steve. He said the state gives and takes away. It's true, it does. All right, next slide, please. So here we are. This is who we are. We are very, very community-oriented, whether we're having a contest, whether it's the community garden, and the chess club started this year. That has been really, really popular. And you can see that it's intergenerational, and we're very, very happy to be hosting that, and it's working out really, really well. You can be happy about that. And you know, chess is a great educational tool and a great way to foster abstract thinking in young people. So we are at the end. What can I tell you?
Wow.
Very good.
Wow.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, does any councilors have any questions? Okay.
Thank you for your presentation.
You're welcome.
Very enjoyable. I can see you're very passionate about the library, and that's great, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Dennis?
I like the IT subscription, the library, the library website, and the ability for the technology and people to take classes. How do you get the word out to the people one of the things we're always thinking, how do we get out in front of people, let them know the resources that are available from the town? Do you guys have a marketing effort that you go to get that word out?
We do. We, particularly when we first subscribe to something new, such as Universal Class, and most recently Canopy, press release out to the newspaper, so it will appear in print. I will also post it on Patch. I have a Patch account, and I have an account with Newport This Week. We also put it on our website with a slider so that it attracts attention with the slider. And we create flyers that we put right at the circ desk. I send emails to the town council. I send emails to other folks. Oh, I'm on WADK once a month, the first Tuesday of every month at 10 o'clock. And I talk about library services, particularly if there's something new. And then I say it again, I'll repeat it again. I have made presentations to the Middletown Rotary, and I've promoted our services that way, particularly our IT services. I brought a laptop to my last presentation, and I went exactly through that, everything that one could do outside of the library building, but through our website. Let me think, what else?
Do you do anything with the school?
I do.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
Just letting the kids know that it's available.
Yes.
From continuing education. I mean, I'm intrigued by the classes that
Mhm.
are offered,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was just,
Yep. We are required to request permission before we can send anything out through the school's list service to parents, and we do that.
okay, great, thank you.
So, and about 3 weeks ago, we requested permission and received permission to send someone who went to Middletown High School and set up a table and talked about our library services and distributed information.
Okay,
So,
great. All right, thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay, yes, Counselor Flynn.
Thank you. Just two things. Looking at your operations budget and the columns and their labels, and so you've got the actual expenditures for 17 and 18, and then what was approved for 19 and what you're proposing. And I'm just curious, not even for this year, but for next year, I'd like to know what was approved and then what was actual, to see if there's a delta and what that delta is,
Between,
between what was approved and
for
what is-
19,
and
no,
no, for the past. So next time you come, next year.
oh,
on the two
yes,
columns,
okay, yes,
If you could provide what was approved and then what was actual.
yes.
Just to see what the delta is between your forecast and what you actually end up expending, if you wouldn't mind.
I could actually email that to you. I'd be happy to do that.
Oh, that would be great.
I
Thank
will,
you. I
yes, I'll
appreciate
email it
that.
to everybody.
And I have to tell you, my favorite slide, this one right here.
Thank you.
Libraries are one of the best places for any age and for all kinds of activities now, and I'm thrilled that you're really massaging that industry and making sure that they stay relevant. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yes, Counselor Santos.
Teresa, you've increased your budget in the, for books by $2,000. Is that children's books or adults? Or both?
I would say we'll split it, 1,000 for children and 1,000 for adults.
Okay, and my second question is, do you do lectures? Okay,
We just had one yesterday, as a matter of fact. I was at the library, we had a lecture by Jean Douliard, who talked about the Franco-American
no,
experience.
do you leave the library to do a lecture elsewhere?
Me?
Yes,
Oh, I have with the Middletown Rotary, yes.
okay, all right,
I usually wait to be invited.
all right. Yeah, that's what I'm aiming for.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any further questions?
No, but I would just like to do a little bit more sales pitch for you. I appreciate the fact that Dennis and Terry have talked about the things that are really, really good, but I just like to do a little more because a lot of the stuff that you did, it was with the sales pitch of this is the budget, and I want to make sure that everybody knows that when we talk about the library, a lot of people still think that the library only represents books, and that's not what it represents anymore. It certainly does, but it's not what it represents anymore, and that's really, really important. We've talked about the courses. I went through the list of courses today, and it was absolutely amazing. I mean, I just wrote down a couple of them. There were classes on accounting, psychology, science, health and medicine, history, and mathematics. Those were just the ones that I thought were strictly academic, but there were just a whole bunch of those besides that. So the classes, I think, are really, really important. The thing about the digital magazines, you can download those magazines and keep them. You don't have to, you're not going to send them back. So instead of going to the grocery store and buying the magazine, you download it from the library for nothing, and you actually keep it. I think that's a wonderful thing. Movies, if they go through the list of the movies, there are movies that where you might go and get a DVD somewhere at some place. You could get it through the library. That's really important. The fact that the Wi-Fi is free, okay, that's important to a lot of people. They don't have access, and that's a good thing. And one final thing I'd like to say is the children's room. You didn't talk at all about the children's, but I saw in some of the flybys, the moving.
The sliders, right.
Yeah, whatever. You have babies programs, and you have preschool programs. Which is wonderful. You do the programs that certainly are aimed at the children at various ages, but even for the little ones, you get them involved. So I'm delighted that you have had the opportunity to talk about that. I'm delighted that people have asked the questions or made the comments that really give a picture of the library, because it's not just about books.
Okay, thank you.
I want to say, for a minute there, she's competing with Apple and Amazon.
And the music you can keep as well. It's a Sony Music Library that you borrow from Friegel,
Apple better watch out.
and it's legal.
You know what I enjoy? I enjoy the presentations. I always enjoy the library budget because it always comes certainly within line of how we like to see budgets presented and the bottom line, increase or decrease. So you guys have done a fabulous job with that. I also like the fact that, I like the chemistry, and when I say that, I mean, you know, Council Von Villas is the liaison to the library, and the library board of trustees, and you can hear the passion coming out of her with her. And I was just looking at her when you were doing the presentation, and she just has this smile on her face. And I say that because that's important. When you have people working together and liaisons to boards and such, it's important that you have people that have chemistry, similar chemistries that get along, because a lot gets accomplished when you have that. And when you don't, I've seen the opposite. And when you don't, it's a struggle. And you can tell there's nothing but not a struggle here, I guess, so to speak. And so I really enjoyed listening to both of you and her with her passion exuberating all over the dais up here about the library. And some of the things that I know you're focused on the budget, but it was nice to hear some of the other things that people may not know that the library provides for no charge.
Fishing poles and tackle boxes as well. You can borrow 3 on a card. for
Really?
Fishing, yes.
That's fantastic. I
Yeah.
mean, people just don't know that. I mean, I didn't know that till you just said it.
At 0 cost to the Middletown
Yeah.
taxpayer, because we receive them all from the Department of
And that's
Environmental
important
Management.
because, you know, some families just, everything costs a lot of money nowadays
Mm-hmm.
and they can't afford to do these things, and they may not know that. So now if they're watching or they hear it or it's reported by Derek, then maybe somebody else would know and be able to take advantage of those services that you provide
Yeah.
for free.
Oh, and by the way, when I have sent out press releases, Derek's predecessor, Max Shealy, he oftentimes would interview me about, for example, we had a nice newspaper coverage about the fishing poles when we started that. Nice coverage about the community garden, and a number of other initiatives as well. So that's another way we've gotten the word out.
Yeah, okay. Yes, Mrs. Sanos.
Teresa, you're going to be having a fantastic presentation coming up from the Middletown Historical Society.
May 18th.
May 18th, it's going to be the gravestone rubbings, and it is fabulous. I mean, the work that's been put into it, and these gravestone rubbings are phenomenal.
Right.
They're going to make a good presentation.
The Friends of the Library, at their expense, purchased the Walker Art System and installed it around the meeting room. And we have been able to host art exhibits, and have hosted art exhibits from the local schools, from local artists, and now the Historical Society, you know, without damaging the wall. Opportunity to enjoy the space in another way, in a very artistic way that everybody can enjoy. So,
I just have a couple questions, Teresa. I was trying to get him in before Mrs. Von Villis's, but I almost feel bad asking him now, but I have to ask him. I just,
This side.
I feel like I'm home with my 6 sisters, you know? I just looked at the increase in capital improvements, and maybe I missed it, but it was an increase. I don't look at the percentage because I just kind of look at the dollars, and I just wanted to know what that capital, increase in capital was for.
sure, it's for 2 line items. One, 15,000 for books, formerly had been 20, and 100,000 for design fees for the new library. We've had some discussion about what may happen along West Main Road. We've had some discussion about the condition of the building. I'm very proud of the building. Again, it's very clean, it's very inviting, but I've told you before, it has terrible bones.
Terrible what?
Bones. It does, the structure of the library.
Oh, bones.
Bones, yes.
Oh, I thought you said bones, but I'm like,
Yeah,
what?
bad bones. You know,
Okay.
there is an engineering standard for the floor length of a library, for the floor strength of a library in order to hold the weight of the books. And the building that we're in, a former daycare center, was not built to be a library. And we've had many structural problems with the floor. There have been some attempts at correcting it, but it's not a permanent solution. I first became aware of it because I was told prior to me being hired, somebody had fallen. Somebody had fallen in the stacks because of the problem with the floor. And I actually spoke with that lady and asked her, could she show me? I heard that she had fallen like last year. Could she show me where she fell? And she did. And she told me how she fell. She was glad she didn't get hurt, but it's the truth. She did fall. And so I could see what was going on with the floor. We pulled up the carpet. I called someone in to come and repair it. He said he couldn't touch that. And this goes back to 2012 when we had very severe cracks going right across the library. And on every corner, the floor had sunk more than 3 inches. And in fact, I showed you photos last year. If you're interested, I brought the photos again this year. I didn't know if this was going to come up, but I can show you the problems. And that's significant. When you don't have structural stability, that is very, very significant in terms of what could possibly happen going forward. I was also told that there was a question as to when that building was built. Was the foundation, how was the foundation laid? How does that relate to today's standards for how a foundation should be laid? And again, how does that translate for serving as a library building that has to support very, very heavy weight on the floor?
Yeah. So Sean, I have a question. So from a liability perspective, have we had any type of structural engineer look at this?
That's part of what monies would be for, is to go to that next step. So there's two parts to the discussion. One, which I anticipate coming up with the planning budget, is how do we want to proceed with the redevelopment of the West Main Road Coddington corridor? And if we look at, we are going to start moving on that project, then we would spend these monies on the architecture redesign of the library. If we're not going to proceed with that project, then we would need to investigate the flooring system that Teresa's talking about right now. As she said, in 2012, we had for our construction come in, we cored throughout the building and poured concrete sort of in the shape of ant mounds underneath the flooring to support the building, the flooring on a temporary basis. But that's something that we would have to come back and truly look at, because the flooring itself isn't part of the building. The way the building's constructed is you have the brick on the outside and the floor is a separate component in itself. So that's a major lift. The other part of that discussion goes to the maintenance of the building. Besides that one issue, when we looked at the Jacobs report, in the next 5 years, they've identified $877,000 worth of deficiencies, as well as $70,000 in life cycle costs. So there's sort of a broader discussion on how we're going to reinvest in the library building, whether that's to look at a strategy in replacing it as part of the redevelopment of the West Main Road Coddington corridor, or if we're going to need to float a bond to do a more major renovation of the building.
So, did you say 377 or 877 from the Jacobs report?
877.
877.
That does not include the flooring.
That was my next question.
Right, so the flooring's a totally separate piece.
Okay.
Jacobs looked at the building as if it was just under the same standards as a school building, or basically a common way of looking at it. There wasn't a specialty look at the structural issues of the floor. Part of that is we know the floor's failed, so.
But from a liability perspective, say somebody was hurt now, and we're aware of that, we're well aware of it, and we're not doing anything about it.
Well, we
I mean,
have.
does that
I
leave
mean,
us-
we've brought someone in.
Oh, we did, okay.
Yep.
That's what I wanted to know, yeah.
Yes, so when
Okay.
Teresa identified the problem before, we brought in for our construction, and the council authorized us to, we basically drilled holes into the floor, and then we basically filled them with concrete, so that you have like an ant hole that's, like jack stands throughout the building holding it up.
Okay,
It's a short-term measure, but it's something that we
Right.
need to address in the
Right.
future.
right, okay, thank you.
Would you like pictures? I brought them again if you wanted to see them.
If you want to leave them with the clerk and she can distribute them, Teresa, that'd be fine. Is anybody, Mr. Frank, did you want to make a comment? Yeah.
Lawrence Frank, 8 O'Donnell Road, Middletown. My wife and myself, particularly my wife, use the library on a regular basis. And one of the great things about it is the staff. And I'm a little distressed by the budget, which includes a reduction in hours of staff people in order to allow the town not to be liable for benefits. And I think that's unfair to the staff people, and I think it's something that should be talked about, and these people should be made full-time. Otherwise, they are required, or not required, they will be responsible for providing their own health care and retirement benefits, something that they would have provided for them if they were working full-time.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Mrs. Rondelis.
Yeah, I just want to say something in support of what has taken place with staff at the library. Being the liaison for the council to the library, I'm there for meetings when they're talking about how things are functioning well. And to give Teresa her due, she manages that building extremely well. And she works with the staff so that that there is sufficient staff, there's always sufficient staff to serve the patrons that are coming in, and there is no shortening of anything. So we all know that there are ways to do things that can be the straight and expensive way, or the make things work in a different way so that you half and half this and half that. And it works better, as it turns out, because there's more flexibility. So and in regard to the staff, I would like to say that I think that the library is run very well, and I think there is sufficient staff to do what needs to be done.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, I would like to hear your opinion on this,
Yeah,
on
thank you. Thank
the,
you.
how you're staffed.
Sure. And Mr. Frank, I thank you. Thank you for your comments. I appreciate it, and I know the staff does as well. But I wanted to say that as this, I call it staff reorganization, came about, the one full-time position that was reduced, also there were part-time positions that were increased.
Exactly.
And in the end, you know, we have collective bargaining at the library. The membership unanimously agreed that they liked taking this step. And so there was nothing that was done that was detrimental to any person. And we did it when the position became vacant as well, so that nobody was hurt by it.
Yeah. That's good, thank you.
You're welcome.
I know that a lot of times when you have a part-time, full-time mix, whatever works in your particular industry. I know in my industry, I like to have, you have to have your sufficient amount of full-timers based on the business need, but also the part-timers also give you that flexibility that you need without the benefits. So you're trying to manage the cost and balance that at the same time and provide without a reduction in service. And one of the things that I wrote down when you first started your presentation was friendly professional service that you provide that I feel is second to none.
Thank you.
So, any further questions? Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you,
Okay.
Teresa.
Motion is-
Motion to recess until 7 o'clock.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Before we get started with the 7 o'clock regular meeting, I just, for those of you that weren't here, announced at 6 o'clock that Council President Sylvia is not here. He's had another setback with his eye surgery that he had, so that's why he's not here. And same thing with Council Lombardi. They both have eye issues, and I talked to them on the phone the other day, made sure they were okay, and anything we could do for them, and I just told them I'm just staying away from you guys. I mean, but so that's why they both wanted me to announce that. That's why they're not here. They're both very conscientious about attending meetings and making sure they're here for their attendance. Having said that, them not being here, we're going to continue several items tonight. So the first item is one of the presentations, which is number 6, which would be that Rick Lombardi put that one on. That would be recognizing the 6-year-old that won the national wrestling title from Middletown. But so we'll do that at the next meeting. We're also going to continue item number 29, item number 30. And I'll read them as I go. It's probably what I should do. Item number 29 is the short-term leases. And the reason we're going to continue that is because obviously Bob and Rick aren't here, but Councilors Flynn and Councilor Toronto both have to recuse themselves, and that would only leave 3 of us. So I apologize for any inconvenience, but it's the right and fair and legal thing to do. The next one is number 30. The Council Body actually put that one on, so it's only right that he should be here to speak to it. Number 31 is the homestead, and same thing with that. Number 31 is something that Rick had proposed, and I think we should have full council to be able to discuss that and make sure that's a fair vote. That was 31 and 32. Councilor Flynn has asked to continue this one to the May 6th meeting. So if anybody's here for those, I just want to make sure you don't hang around and wait, and you're welcome to stay and listen to all interesting dialogue. But Those will be continued to the next regular council meeting on May 6th. Okay? All set? Okay, so let's get going. The first one is the public forum. Let me read it in. We do have a couple of forms, but let me read this first. 3 forms, okay. Number 2, pursuant to Rule 25 of Rules of the Council, citizens may address the town on one subject only, said subject of substantive town business, neither discussed during the regular meeting nor related to personnel or job performance. Citizens may speak for no longer than 5 minutes and must submit a public participation form to the council clerk prior to the start of the meeting. All items discussed during this session will not be voted upon, so
Mr. President, we have 3 forms.
thank you, Council Sanos. First is Susan Addy. I hope I got your last name right, Susan?
No, you didn't, but that's all right.
All right,
Doesn't matter.
thank you. Just your name and address to the record, please.
Susan 80, 43 Willow Avenue. Nice to see you all again.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for allowing this time. I've brought something different tonight. Remember the game you play when around Easter time, the number of jelly beans in a jar? Well, this is the number of nips in a jar. And I picked this up in just one walk between my house down to Shaw's and back. I think there must have been a party going on in the parking lot there at the Valley area. But anyway, I wanted you to guess how many nips are there. Took me about 2 minutes to pick them up. I can tell you later what the answer is. Anyway, thank you so much. You know what my topic is for this evening. Happy Earth Month. I hope we celebrate it every day by practicing as much as we can do to take care of our Earth, and we can start right here in Middletown, of course. You are no doubt aware of the number of volunteers that have been out picking up trash the last 2 weeks. In part, I think that is because of Earth Month. So there's been several NGOs that have organized groups to go out. But also there's been lots of individuals like myself who just go out in their neighborhood with a bag and they pick up trash. A lot of us are talking about it online. We're sharing stories of how much we're finding, where we're finding it. In front of schools, these nips in front of schools that children are playing with. They think they're a game or something, you know. Something not right about that, folks. But at any rate, there's been a lot of trash picked up over the last 2 weeks. Now, I was here 2 weeks ago and I asked you about a waste management plan and was invited back to find out if I could learn any more about it. So here I am to see what you have accomplished in the last 2 weeks. I know your dockets are full and you may not have accomplished anything. So I'm just hoping I can keep it high up on your list of things that you should be thinking about. When we talk about waste management, we talk about what to pick up, of course. And picking it up around the town, having dedicated people that get out and pick up waste everywhere we see it, day after day after day, is not the job of me or my neighbors. It's the job of the town. But waste management is not just about picking up trash. It's about preventing waste. And I know that I have to do this on the ship that I work on. We work at sea. We're away from ports for long periods of time. So we have to prevent how much waste we produce. And then, of course, we have really strict guidelines about how we manage our waste after that. We as a town should have the same thing. We as people operating in this town should have the same thing. We should limit how much waste we use. So I'd like to thank you for having started by having the plastic bag ban, which has been, I think, very important. But I wonder really how much it's happening when I go to the grocery stores and there in the produce aisle are plastic bags. Sadly, even at the farmer's market are plastic bags for my vegetables. Not necessary. There's alternatives. There's alternatives to everything. So we need to take a look at how we manage those and how we work with those. Communities across the country, across the world, have started to ban one-use plastics. We need to move beyond the bag ban, and we need to get into styrofoam coffee cups from all our locals, clear plastic containers, bottles, but styrofoam, those floating docks, bits and pieces that become microplastics, which I addressed with you last time. So I wanted to read to you a list of some of the communities that are starting to ban one-use plastic. New York City and several other, cities across New York. Tacoma Park, Maryland. Seattle, Washington. Washington, D.C. Miami Beach, Freeport, Maine. Portland, Maine. Nantucket, just over there. Minneapolis, Portland, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and a lot of other cities and towns in California, because California is the first state to take this on, to ban one-use plastic. My favorite, though, is Buckingham Palace. I think that's pretty cool. Businesses are also stepping up to the plate, and we need to ask our businesses in this town to step up to the plate. Alaska Airlines, Hyatt Hotels, Marriott, London City Airport, even IKEA is stepping up to the plate. And many countries are doing this as well. Kenya, Norway, India, the UK, the European Union, etc. But most interesting, I think, is Nantucket. They share our trash. Our trash that is a tidal wave that goes into the ocean right here, right down our rivers, right down Bailey Brook, can wash up on shore in Nantucket. So while they have taken the responsibility to stop having it go into the ocean, so maybe it prevents coming up on our shores, we need to do the same for them. They are also standing by to help us. I have reached out to them. I have emailed them and spoken to them. They have documentation that can teach us how to do it. They're willing to share. They're happy to share. So I'd like to say thank you again for letting me come and join you. And I'd like to wait here for an answer, but I know you'll gently find a way to tell me, Susan, your time is up. Do you want the answer?
15.
22.
Oh,
Susan, don't leave. Don't leave. I have a suggestion for you. You may have more pull than I do. Now, when the Rhode Island Department of Transportation did East Main Road, they took away the, the shelter by Shores. And they took away a trash. Now, you notice that there's quite a bit of trash when the people are waiting for the bus. Return the shelter and return the trash bucket to that area so they can maybe they'll throw it in there. I don't know.
A lot of people will throw something away if there is a container to put it into.
There's no container there, there's no...
Just like in the valley, there's no containers, so the dogs, they crap, you put it in a bag, and then you leave the bag there. Nobody picks it up.
They do the same thing
So-
at the park, at Paradise Park.
Exactly, exactly. We need to, as a community,
Yeah.
get an action plan,
Yeah.
but I will write to DOT, and I will ask
See if
about
they
that.
will
So
return
thank you
the
for that
shelter with
suggestion.
the buckets.
Thank you.
hang on one second, Susan. So Sean, one of the things Susan said was, and it reminded me because I worked at Public Works when I was going through college, and we had a dedicated person who would go around and pick up trash. So do we have that now, or do we just do it based on complaints, or if we see, somebody calls one of us and we go, hey, look, the valley's, when the valley was high and pricker bushes were growing, all that stuff was being caught there. You could see it. So I don't know if it helped keeping it mowed and low. I know there was a plan for a while because of, some type of restriction based upon what we were doing with DEM. But I guess my question's leading into two questions. So I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
So, do we have somebody that does that a dedicated person? And two, what's the plan for the valley?
Okay, so
Because I like hearing her talk, I like the way she presents herself, but we gotta have answers sooner or
Right.
later. Hopefully sooner than later.
So there is a routine for picking up litter.
Okay.
That routine becomes more frequent when the part-time staff shows up, which
Okay.
will be at the end of this month. And that's something that we can continue to look at during the budget discussion. We have a limited number of resources
Okay.
to do that work. On the valley, we are limited in the number of times that we can cut it to twice a year. So that will be the ongoing maintenance routine for it. It'll be cut sometime during this spring season, and then after the nesting season in the late summer. So
Okay.
I think that will normalize now.
Okay. So, I know initially, years ago, when we had trash barrels down at the Big Rock all year long, and other places like that, we took them away because people were diverting their trash there, their personal trash, and dumping it in there, so, I don't know.
I think it's even more just a problem with dumping. Trash cans become targets. We looked at, and this has been for a while now, basically the carry-in, carry-out initiative, trying to encourage people to bring their trash home as opposed to providing that as a service, just because it becomes extremely labor-intensive to keep up to it. It's no different. I mean, if you have like a big party at your house, as the garbage can gets full, people will continue to put stuff on top of it. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's just, it seems to be
Yeah.
human behavior. If I get it close enough, then that's good enough. So we have had success with the carry in, carry out, and then policing it as you know, on some sort of frequency, and then on a complaint basis. That seems to have been a practical way to deal with the trash.
Yeah.
So-
So is there any type of management plan, trash management plan, or pickup plan? I know we rely on Ocean State, Clean Ocean Access and
Right.
groups like that, and that's great.
And you contribute
town
to
needs a
Clean Ocean Access.
We do contribute to that, yeah.
Yes. So, again, Public Works does have a schedule, and that schedule increases once the seasonal employees get on board. We can revisit that.
If we could, I mean, we can look at something, at least we take some kind of action, a step forward. I mean, again, I like when she comes up and talks, but I don't want to see her every time saying the same thing over and over again, and
Yep.
we're not doing anything about it.
No, so I have met with the solicitor. We have talked about looking at fines, how the fine structure works within Rhode Island and with the town. Within my own office, I've pulled the America the Beautiful model ordinance for litter control, and that's something that we're looking at.
Yeah.
So we are looking at a number of those.
I'd also like to ask Peter to look at styrofoam. I don't think it's gonna go away, and I'm sitting here drinking Dunkin' Donuts coffee like I do every day. But I'd just like to see what other communities are doing, and of course, you wanna be a leader in things, but, you know, sometimes you wanna make sure you have all your facts too,
Mr. President?
so. Yes, Mrs. Sanders.
I know this is before your time and before Sean's time, but we used to have one elderly gentleman that was hired by the town full-time. Do you remember his name?
I do, he wasn't related to me, but his name is Tony Rodriguez.
Thank you. He,
I worked there with him at the time, that's why I
oh,
knew
you
he
worked
did it.
there.
yes.
Okay, so you were there.
Yep.
He was full-time at the Public Works, and that's all he would do, pick up trash around town. So why can't we do something
Well,
like
it comes
that?
down to a budget discussion.
That's correct.
That's what it comes down to.
Yep.
Can I
Okay.
have something?
Yes, Councilor Toronto.
Okay, thank you. This has been something I've been focused on for a couple of years now in regards to just litter in the town of Middletown. I've seen it nationwide, and it's pretty darn bad. So when I come back to Middletown, I say, we're not going to become like that. But I do a lot of walking, and I find a lot of those nip bottles as well. And I find a lot of trash cans and things thrown into the Bailey's Brooks, and you can see it going down with this water runoff we just had. We probably don't have as much litter around, but it does, it's out there. And I can ask Sean, I call him, on a weekly basis to point out where there are areas that need to be picked up. Some of the areas that, we need to focus on, I would like to see us have a plan to do this, because we spend a lot of money on clean water, drinking water. 70% of our drinking water is surface water. So if we don't address the trash issue, why are we doing anything else? Which we're doing. So we need to take some of that budget and put it more towards litter control and having someone to police this, because where we're seeing it is in the shopping centers where the dumpsters are. Okay? I drive around town on a Saturday. I'll just go out, drive around. Middletown's only so big. I see trucks, Public Works trucks driving around with branches in the back of it. I think to myself, why don't they stop, get a bag, and walk down the street and walk back up the street? So I'd like to see a program put in place in Middletown for clean water and lend a hand, take care of your land, and start educating the young folks as well, the youngsters, when what is, this keeping America clean and our drinking water. So I want to see a town plan. And we have these constructions projects that are going on, and when you go to look at the new construction, and there's the dumpster, but when you look at all the houses around them, they've got all this debris that's been blowing all over the street. Who picks that up? That should be a fine. Someone should go and tell the construction company, you can't have trash blowing around. Here's your warning. And if they don't do it, we charge them $1,000. Then they're going to be keeping an eye on the trash. And the retail locations, CVS, Starbucks, Stop and Shop. Those bags are blowing around. Liquor stores. We should have a campaign to go into the liquor stores and tell them to stop selling these nip bottles, or pay to clean them up. So this is something we've been focused on. This is something we need to stay focused on. It's been something people have been challenged with forever. It's not going away. We just need to educate people and do something about it. So I don't know how to make a motion, or we'll talk about it during the budget timeframe. Okay? So I'll wait till then.
Thank you. Peter, I have one more question.
Thank
Based on something Susan said. So we ban the plastic bags, right? But when I go to Shaw's, I grab the little plastic and I put whatever vegetables or fruit in it. And so does that fall into that same ordinance or not?
The ordinance is focused on the bags that are used at the point of sale, so really the bags that you get at the checkout line. The bags in the produce section are specifically exempt under the ordinance as it was adopted by both Middletown, Newport, as well as Portsmouth. Certainly something that could be looked into. The question is, what's the alternative? I know obviously the stores prefer those bags because you can, the ladies or men in the checkout line can see what's in the bag when they're checking out your groceries.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times too, I'm not saying I'm in favor of it, but a lot of times too, you're getting something like a head of broccoli and it's damp from the mist and it goes in there and,
Yep.
you know, with plastic, it doesn't leak
There
through.
are cornstarch bags that are biodegradable that can be used. So there are
Okay.
alternatives to the produce aisle as well.
Okay.
So
But-
it is looking into it and changing, obviously.
But
could
right
we-
now, those are specifically
Could we look
exempt.
at that also, please?
What's that? Sure.
Yeah,
Thank you for your
your
time.
5 minutes is up.
Oh,
Okay, thank you, Susan. Okay, Anton Viveras, please. Yeah, he was next.
Anton Viveras, 110 Indian Hill Road. At the last meeting, President Sylvia had proposed, I think it was a contingency fund. A contingency fund starting, probably funded at the beginning of $100,000, and the money could only be spent by authorization of the council. Through the years, I have seen our general fund, reserve fund, go from 14, 15%, now it's down to a little over 3%. Instead of starting a new fund, I would recommend that you take those restrictions that you would have put on that new fund if you were to propose it, if it was to pass, and put that on a general fund, reserve fund. I just think that creating another fund would be like the baka at a carnival with the pea. What pea is the shell? What shell is the pea under? Well, we have so many shells that you just can't keep track of it. So I would suggest or propose, and I can only suggest that the council consider putting that type of restrictions on the general fund, reserve fund, and that money can only be used by authorization of the council, and that fund be funded a 1% of the increase in the tax levy would fund that, go into that fund until that fund reached its maximum, and then it would be whatever you needed to maintain it, because that fund was originally, in case we lost state and federal funds or an emergency, we had something to fall back on, and like I said, at one time, understand that the general fund has increased since back then. So as the budget goes up, the percentage goes down. But we have to maintain that percentage to be on the safe side, to protect the town and its residents.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Viveras. Okay,
Mr. President?
Yes,
if I
Mr.
can
Brown.
just correct a statement that Mr. Viveras made. The town's fund balance is actually in excess of 8%. Those details were provided to the town council at the last meeting.
yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Okay. Presentations. At the request of Council President Sylvia, resolution of the council proclaiming April 2019 the month of the military child in the town.
Motion to begin said presentation and pass said resolution.
Second.
We have a second. Okay, motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
I would just like to read it. I mean, I think if Bob took the time to put it on, I think it's only appropriate that we read it. So, The month of the military child in the town. Whereas across our nation and here in the state of Rhode Island, children in military families sacrifice much in order to allow their parents to serve our nation and protect our liberty. In this month of April, people are encouraged to show support for our military and veteran children and to thank them for their strength and sacrifices they have made and continue to make. And whereas there are approximately 2 million military children in the United States, with 1.3 million being school-aged, the average military student faces transition challenges more than twice during high school. And most military children attend 6 to 9 different school systems from kindergarten through the 12th grade. Taking care of our military children sustains our nation's fighting force and strengthens the health and safety of our nation's families and communities. And whereas the Middletown School District serves 600 military-connected students, amounting to 26.5% of the student population. April 24th is also Purple Up for Military Kids Day. The month of April is a time to recognize the service and sacrifices of our military members, their families, and especially their children. They deserve our support, so now therefore be it resolved that the Town Council of the Town of Middletown hereby proclaims the month of April as the month of the military child in Rhode Island and call this observance to the attention of all of our citizens. Okay, thank you. So we have a motion to second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Number 4.
Number 3, yes.
Okay.
Yes. At the request of Council President Sylvia, resolution of the council in reference to proclaiming April 26, 2019 Arbor Day in the town.
Motion to begin said presentation and pass said resolution.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Proclamation in honor of Arbor Day. Rhode Island has celebrated Arbor Day for over 130 years, and whereas Arbor Day and tree planting activities are a wholesome and inexpensive way to acknowledge and reaffirm future prospects of a community, and whereas the celebration of Arbor Day is a meaningful way to celebrate springtime and introduce school children to local government, and whereas the town of Middletown acknowledges the tremendous and vital contribution that trees make to our quality of life in the community. Therefore, be it resolved, the Town Council of the Town of Middletown, speaking on behalf of all of its citizens, recognizes Arbor Day, April 26, 2019 in the community. Number 5, at the request of Council President Sylvia, resolution of the council proclaiming the week of May 5th, 2019 as Small Business Week in the town.
Motion to begin said presentation and pass said resolution. Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this resolution, National Small Business Week proclamation, whereas America's progress has been driven by pioneers who think big, take risks, and work hard. And whereas from the storefront shops that anchor Main Street to the high-tech startups that keep America on the cutting edge, small businesses are the backbone of our economy and the cornerstones of our nature's promise. And whereas small business owners and Main Street businesses have energy and a passion for what they do, and when we support small businesses, jobs are created and local communities preserve their unique culture, and because the country's 30 million small businesses create nearly 2 out of every 3 net new jobs in our economy, we cannot resolve ourselves to create jobs and spur economic growth in America without discussing ways to support our entrepreneurs. And whereas the President of the United States has proclaimed National Small Business Week every year since 1963 to highlight the programs and services available to entrepreneurs through the United States Small Business Administration and other government agencies. And whereas Middletown supports and joins in this national effort to help America's small businesses do what they do best, grow their business, create jobs, and ensure that our communities remain at a vibrant tomorrow as they are today. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Council of the Town of Middletown hereby proclaims May 5th through May 11th, 2019 as National Small Business Week in the town and calls upon all our citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, and businesses to join with us in its observance. Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Vice President?
Yes.
Karen Day is here from the Tree Commission.
Oh,
And if you could just,
I saw her and it didn't click.
I think you need to present this to her so she can get a picture, so,
Excellent.
is that correct?
I was not aware of that. I'd love to do that. You have it?
I have it.
Okay.
But you're gonna have to give it back, because I need to get the president's signature. Just present it to her.
Okay. Okay, no problem. You want me to read it again? Okay, so Karen, this is a resolution and proclamation of honor of Arbor Day, and not just the words, but the meaning behind the words, and what you guys have done, especially down in that valley, and I know you're going to continue your work. It's just an awesome job, and the quality, one of the things that stuck out to me, and I was reading that in my mind, was the quality of life that trees bring to us. Just the pleasure you get out of when something is done nice, like the valley, you look at it and go, wow, we need more of that. So congratulations, thank you for what you do, and we appreciate what you do.
Thanks so much.
Would you like to say anything?
I'd just like to say thank you
Yeah.
to the town council members and to Sean especially, who have given us nothing but tremendous support, and it's so, so appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen. You're welcome. Okay. Thank you. Number 6, at the request of Council Lombardi, citation of the council in reference to Rudy Everin, Middletown Youth Wrestling Club. She's gonna, we still have to continue.
Motion to continue this item on, to the May 6th, 2019 regular meeting of the town council.
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Motion to adopt the consent calendar with the exception of items number 10, number 12, 13, 14. Am I missing any?
21.
16, 21?
16 and 21.
Okay, sorry,
That's okay.
I don't have them circled.
No problem.
16 and 21.
Okay.
Did she say 16?
You said 16, Terry? Okay.
And 16?
Okay, motion to adopt the consent calendar minus items 12, 13, 14, 16, and 21.
10.
And 10.
10.
Sorry. And 10. Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so let's go right to number 10. Number 10 is resolution of the town of Smithfield School Committee in reference to financial literacy.
Motion to receive said resolution.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Did you want to speak on 10? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Vice President. I usually don't agree with too much that comes down from the state, but I believe in giving credit where credit's due. And when I looked at the consent calendar and I saw these resolutions, I thought that at least 3 out of 4 was worthwhile, especially this one with the financial literacy, where research shows that students who receive high-quality personal finance education in schools are more likely to manage their finances effectively as adults, resulting in lower debt, higher credit scores, and greater personal income. And most high schools in Rhode Island already offer these courses. And I don't know how many times you go to a store and cashiers, they don't know how to make change. And going back when I was, well, I won't go back that far, but they used to teach those things, checkbook, how to make change, so on and so forth, and I don't think they do that anymore. So I will ask the council to perhaps have a resolution to support the General Assembly Bill 2019 H 5033 and S, which is the Senate 112, in support of the financial literacy.
That's what this does. By us approving that, we're supporting what they're proposing.
Okay, are we taking part, in other words, are we going to send something up to the General Assembly supporting those bills?
Wendy, we send back to,
What we're doing here is we're just receiving their resolutions. So if the council wants to have one of their own, we could put that on the next docket. So I'll be preparing basically the same resolution, but from the town of Middletown.
okay,
The more support that goes up to the State House, the more it's apt to pass.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
Mr. President?
Yes,
Is that-
Councilor Flynn.
Is that something where somebody requests it be put on the docket, or by this meeting, we are asking for it to be put on the docket? Is there a motion
You
required?
can make that motion certainly, or put it on, whichever your preference is.
So I'll make a motion that the council for the docket of May 6th have a discussion about the school committee resolution for financial literacy.
You want a resolution or a discussion about it?
You want a resolution?
We want a resolution, excuse me.
Okay, no problem. We good on that?
I would only suggest you might want to talk to the superintendent before you start passing resolutions regarding the school
Didn't-
department.
Didn't we see one from them on this in the last couple of meetings?
I guess I don't recall any conversation with the school
Okay,
superintendent.
so you want to withdraw your motion?
I'll withdraw it and I'll take a look and I'll write a request
Okay, if you
okay.
can find out a little info, that'd be great. Thank you. Okay, number 12, resolution of the Town of Smithfield School Committee in reference to amend Article 12 entitled of Education. Amendment would make education the paramount duty of the General Assembly and recognize that public education is a fundamental right.
Motion to receive said resolution. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Did you want to speak on this one as well?
12.
Number 12.
Number 12, Anton Viveras, 110 Indian Hill Road. My recommendation would be the same. I think that this is worthwhile. And when it comes to education, our students only have one chance as they go through our school system. And I think they deserve every opportunity that we can give them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Terry, you're going to tackle that one as
I
well?
shall.
It's
I'll
all,
see what
tie
this-
them all in?
I will. The school committee came up with 3 to 5 of them not too long ago, so
Okay.
I'll just go back and pull them for us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. All right, so 13. Item number 13 is resolution of the Town of Smithfield School Committee in reference to contract continuation.
Motion to receive said resolution. Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Viveras.
Now, this one I don't agree with. Anton Viveras, 110 Indian Hill Road.
Okay.
I think this will tie the hands of our school committee in negotiations and take the advantage that we could have our taxpayers because, as I said before, government doesn't have any money until they take it from somebody, and usually it's somebody out there going to work every day, 40 hours a week. So I don't think this would benefit education. I think it would just put further restraint on our school committee and their negotiation ability.
Okay.
Thank you.
Why don't you just stay right there, Mr. Viveras, because we're going to do 14.
I got one more.
And if you want the exercise, you're certainly welcome to go back and forth. But, okay, so we had a motion and a second. We approved that. Number 14, resolution of the Town of Smithfield School Committee in reference to binding arbitration.
Motion to receive said resolution. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Mr. Viveras.
This again, I think the cities and towns should have the flexibility to negotiate in good faith and to come up with a affordable contract that the taxpayers could afford. My time on council and with working with Mr. Brown on some of the negotiations, I think we did a good job and we got a good contract and the people benefited. And I would not like to see that advantage be taken away.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Item number 16, memorandum of Paul A. Croce, Chair, Planning Board, in reference to comprehensive plan / zoning map consistency, proposed amendments to the comprehensive plan, future land use plan, requires advertising for public hearing and notification to abutters.
Motion to receive said memorandum, advertise for public hearing, and notify abutters.
Second.
Second, discussion, Councilor Flynn.
Discussion. Yeah, I pulled this off. I have a couple of questions, having dealt with these future land use plan maps, commonly known as FLUP maps. So this agenda item for the town council is for us to advertise it for a public hearing, which would mean that all the addresses that are on these maps would be published. And my question, and this might be for our town planner, is do mailings also go out, or are they just going by newspaper advertisement? So on the FLUP notifications for advertising for the public hearings,
Yeah. The notifications by mail or by first-class mail?
so, and it's the property owners or abutters as well?
There's no statutory requirement to notify anybody, in fact, but we choose as a town to make sure that at least the property owners that are being directly affected are notified of the comprehensive plan changes. So that's the starting point, is that those property owners will be notified. If the council wishes to have additional folks notified by mail, that can be done as well.
So they are being notified for the planning board's public hearing, because the planning board reviews it and then sends it here for public hearing?
The planning board hearings have already been held.
Okay, so the folks were already notified, they came to, or they were invited to come to the planning board. Are they
Yes.
going to be notified again by first-class mail and by the newspaper?
Yes.
Okay, so, please take a look at these notifications. Thank you, Ron. Even after multiple rounds of reviewing them, they get very confusing, because there's columns in what is published. One of the columns is what the current zoning is, and one of the columns is what the comprehensive FLUP map shows right now, and what the proposed change is. Usually it's to bring it into compliance, but you need to really look at your address and make sure that that's what is the best future use and designation of that property. So please pay attention, and please take a look when you get the notifications, and come to the public hearing and call Mr. Walensky with any questions.
Okay. And his cell phone number is? No, just kidding. Just kidding, Ron. Okay,
He's
thank
smiling,
you.
that's good.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
Number 21, application for a special event permit received from Shelley Dungan. Yoga on the Beach with Shelley, 1-hour community yoga classes for all ages and abilities, 7 days a week, 7:30 a.m. and 6 p.m. from June 15th, 2019 to September 15th, 2019, and one class on May 31st, 2019 at 6 p.m.
Motion to grant said special event permit.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second discussion. I just pulled this off because I have no problem with the yoga on the beach. Sooner or later, we are going to have to address all the businesses that are having, that are taking place on the beach. The only issue I had with this one was the time. The other ones are usually before we open. They're like at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. This one's at 7:30, Sean. So, last thing we wanted to do is interfere with, and I'm sure it's probably only an hour or so, but it's, the beach is open. So, I don't know what the council's thoughts are on that. Again, I'm in favor of it. It's just the time that I want to make sure it doesn't interfere with beach operations.
What time do the parking lots open at the beach?
9. There's usually someone there at 8 o'clock, but I believe they start charging at 9.
Well, I know when I worked there, when we opened at 7:30, we started charging at 7:30.
Well, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's news to me, what was charging at 9, so.
You know what, I probably have it wrong, so.
Oh, no problem.
Yes.
Okay.
I just.
Thought I missed something.
No,
No problem. That was my only concern. I'm beginning to develop a little bit of an issue with, you know, businesses making money on the back of the town, but I get it, and I'm for it. It's just expanding, and sooner or later, we're gonna need to address that. And I'm good with this, it's just the time of it. I just wanna make sure it doesn't interfere with beach operations.
Is there anybody in the audience representing?
Anybody here from, Shelley here from the Shelley's Yoga? No? Okay. Could we just have a discussion with her about the time?
Yes, and I had emailed you. She's really the original, wellness vendor that we've had down there.
Okay.
She's over at Third Beach near the town beach, so it doesn't interfere with the families in the boat ramp. She's sort of a quiet activity in a quiet part of the beach.
Okay.
But Will and I will talk.
Yeah, and the only other thing is that, you know, it sets a precedent for another business, because if we allow her during beach operations, then how do you say no to somebody else that comes in as this continues to evolve and expand these businesses on the beach? So,
Mr. Vice President?
yes.
Just a quick question. What would you propose the times be? Would you like to see her starting at 6:37 or going later in the evening? Did you have something in mind?
Well,
Just curious.
I mean, I just think it should fall in line with what the other folks are doing before the beach opens. I mean, they should be out of there before the beach opens. It certainly reduces our liability. I know they have insurance, and her sub-instructors have insurance that we read. So, I mean, I'm fine with that. I just want to make sure that, you know, it doesn't interfere with beach operations, and that it, you know, limits the liability. That's all. So.
No, and again, we do require all of the vendors to carry liability insurance, so
Yeah.
I think it's more of an operational issue as well as a quality of life issue, that it doesn't interfere with residents using the beach, so.
Okay. And it's non-weekends, right?
No,
Just during the week?
yes.
What about
No,
like,
actually, wait, I'm sorry.
that's the other thing. I mean, weekends, it gets
7
busy down
days.
there earlier.
So she's 7 days a week. Let me just look at her.
Yeah.
Mr. Vice President?
Yes.
Question. Do we know if these hours and times are different than what this person has done in the past? Are they expanded? Are they the same?
I'm not sure.
So last year, she was approved to be on the beach at 6 PM Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and 7:30 in the morning on Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. This year, her application is a little more open. Basically, most days of the week, 7:30 to 8:30, and then 6 to 7 PM. I mean, I think at this point, Will Cronin and myself can contact her and try to tighten that up.
Yeah, I would
And
try and
express these
at least get
concerns.
her out of there by 7:30.
Okay.
You know, I think that's fair. I really do.
I'd like to point out, this is the 9th summer that this
Yeah.
business is. That's almost like an icon of the beach now. To have this yoga on the beach.
I don't know about that, but. Okay, thank you. So we have a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, so licenses. Number 22, application of Newport, I hope I get this right, Cryotherapy LLC does business as Newport Wellness and Recovery, 102 West Main Road, for holiday license for the 2019-2020 licensing year. This is new.
Motion to grant said license.
Yes, second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Number 23, amended application for special event permit for Middletown Police FOP Lodge 21, adding touch-a-truck event at Second Beach during the police 5K road race to be held on Sunday, May 19, 2019, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Second Beach Main Lot. Original application was granted December 17, 2018. All fees were waived. Applicant requests all fees be waived for amended application.
Motion to grant said amended special event permit and waive all fees.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
President,
Mrs. Santos.
can we go back to number 22? Was there an applicant, was the applicant in the audience? No. No, okay, thank you.
Okay, other communications. Number 24, communication of Middletown High School Senior and Junior Post-Prom Committee in reference to requesting support for senior and junior post-prom activities.
Motion to receive said communication, approve $200 for the senior post-prom activities and $200 for the junior post-prom activities to be appropriated from the council president's discretionary fund.
Mr. Vice President, I just realized I do have a junior in high school. I probably need to step down. Is that true?
Well, I have extensive experience with the recusals and actually going before the Ethics Commission one time. And what I learned and took away from that is if it's 70 to 75 people, it's considered a class or a group.
So I'm good.
So anything below that, that's their number. You can choose to or choose not to participate.
I'm getting
I believe the class exception would apply in this
Yes,
case.
yes.
very good.
I don't charge for my consulting.
I owe you.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Number 25, communication of Newport County YMCA Adaptive Physical Activity, APA, and Special Olympics team in reference to requesting support for the Newport County YMCA APA golf tournament.
Motion to receive said communication and sponsor a T sign in the amount of $150 to be appropriated from the president's discretionary fund.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, number 26, communication of Christina M. Offenberg, attorney at law, with enclosures in reference to resolution supporting request of Flat Waves LLC regarding a public hearing for a BV liquor license.
Motion to receive said communication.
Motion is second to receive. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. You've changed, Christine.
Thank you.
Okay.
Holy cow.
It's amazing how that works. Good evening, Council President, members of the Town Council. My name is Sean Bouchard. I'm an attorney from the law offices of Silva, Thomas, Marlin, and Offenberg, here tonight representing Flat Waves LLC. Before I get too far down the road here, at the time that we had submitted this application, understanding was that we would have a vote by the school committee to pass a letter of no objection related to this application. Due to the school vacation week, they did not meet in between our filing and this meeting. We did receive a letter of support from the superintendent, and we had hoped that by having her come this evening, we would be able to still move forward with this. Unfortunately, she's not here for this evening, and given the nature of this application and its impacts on the school department, I believe it would be most appropriate at this time to actually request that any discussion related to this be moved to the next hearing. In the interim, there will be a vote on this matter by the school committee, and you would be able to receive a full representation from the school committee as to what their thoughts are related to this application by Flat Waves.
What's the pleasure of the council?
Are there people here for this agenda item? There is.
I have no objection hearing from them, or we can speak with them off the record. It just, in terms of moving forward with this, to actually have any decisions related to a resolution without the input of the school committee would be slightly premature, or at least that's our opinion, and so we would ask for that continuance to have that input.
Mr. President, I'd
Mrs.
like to make
Santos.
a motion that we take the advice of council and continue it to the next meeting.
Motion is second, but I'd like to ask Mrs. Haru if she would like to, I think it's, if that's a request, but sorry you had to sit there and not know this, because we didn't know it till just now either, which I wish we had known before.
Correct. And again, our understanding was that the superintendent would be in attendance to speak on behalf of the school committee on their thoughts related to this matter, but her lack of appearance kind of...
We do have a letter from her.
And again, I think our thoughts were, the letter was partly there, but that was only what she could authorize. We were hoping to have some input related to the school committee's meetings in connection with this. But again, without having a superintendent here to speak on behalf of the school committee and any input from them, I think just it would make sense for everyone to move this to the next hearing. But again, given that this is late notice, I also don't want to waste a member of the public's time without hearing from them. I think that's only right that she be allowed to speak as well. So.
Do you know she wants to speak? Do you know that?
No.
Or you're just assuming she's going to come and
I'm
speak?
simply indicating if a member of public spent the time to come here and be in attendance, I don't want to deny them the opportunity to speak at a hearing.
No, I'm talking about the superintendent. Has she told you she's going to come here and speak?
Yes, that was our understanding via communications with the school committee and the superintendent before the hearing.
Peter, excuse me, what is your recommendation here? Because I don't want to say something,
My suggestion is, since the applicant is requesting continuance, and certainly because this involves a proposed business in close proximity to the school, let the council continue it to at least get some input from the school committee. Obviously, ultimately, it's up to the council, regardless of the input you get, to make the decision on this, but I would suggest that you, unless there's some strong feeling otherwise, that you agree to the continuance.
I just don't like the fact that it's last minute, and I don't like the fact that a resident's here to speak about it, and no one's notified.
Well, certainly you have the option of allowing the resident to either speak tonight if she wishes to speak tonight, or to give her the opportunity to come back and speak at the next meeting and when it's continued.
What's your pleasure, Nan?
Actually, I think it would be fine, because my remarks probably are just as important to the school committee
Okay.
as they are to you, so
Okay.
I'm fine with waiting.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
We have a motion to continue. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, a second to continue. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So we're going to continue
Number 27.
27 as well? Okay. Resolution of the council in reference to an act relating to alcoholic beverages / retail sales.
Motion to continue to the next council meeting.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, ordinances, number 28, an ordinance of the town of Middletown. This is the second reading. An ordinance amendment to the Town Code, Title III, Administration, Chapter 34, Taxes, Section 34.02, exemption on residential property. See attached ordinance.
Motion to adopt said ordinance on its second reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Sean?
Sorry, I was just making a note. Where are we?
28.
I'm sorry. Yep. This is the second reading of the senior exemption ordinance. The ordinance represents changes that were recommended by the committee, exemption committee that the council had formed earlier this year. They had made recommendations to increase the amounts or the income levels so that more people would qualify for the exemptions. Additionally, they made a change to the age requirements, dropping the second tier so that you were eligible to receive the increased amounts at age 70 instead of age 75. The assessor had provided a fiscal impact statement related to this. It's relatively immaterial, but it does provide a greater benefit for our senior residents.
So Sean, what is I guess my question would be, what is the average, I don't even know if it's a fair question, but it's just the way I'm thinking about it, I guess. What is the average senior, and I guess it depends upon what exemptions they qualify for, but George, what is the average senior, what are they going to gain by this from what their exemptions are now? I mean, are we making a significant difference? Is it keeping, I know the intent's there, are we keeping up with the cost of living for these folks? I mean, those are questions that sit in my mind. Are we making a difference? Or are we just kind of balancing a worksheet financially?
I think we're opening a greater opportunity for folks to have more of an exemption on their bill.
Okay, so is it more, I understand it's more folks, but is it existing folks?
It's the existing folks that are already receiving the exemption. It's just allowing a greater group, a greater population to access a somewhat larger exemption.
Are we just, and again, are we making a difference, or are we just shifting dollars around? You know what I mean?
I'm not following you on this one.
Okay.
I might be able to.
So if I'm a senior and I get an exemption, and I based on
dollar amount.
Dollar amount, say I get an exemption, whatever the dollar amount is, I don't know, just throw a rough number out there. Just say $300, right?
Yep.
Currently, what would I get with this new ordinance, or the amendment to this ordinance? What would I get?
So you could, for a younger senior, which age 65 to 74, you would move up from $521 to $860. So you would realize approximately $340.
Okay.
For a younger senior. For an older senior, you would move up from $573 savings to $947 savings.
Okay.
So,
Now, what is offsetting that?
that would be the tax rate.
The tax rate.
Okay,
so
that's what I want to make
The
clear.
non-seniors would fund the program.
Okay. Okay, that's what I meant by
That's
balancing,
basically
that's what I
what-
meant by balancing
Okay, yeah.
a spreadsheet, you know?
Understood.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. President,
Mrs. Santos.
George, when will this take effect?
I
For the
believe
next tax bills?
that's your call, I believe. I'm not exactly certain.
All
If
right,
you want
then
it
my
effective
next-
immediately, fine. If you wanted to put it off effective next year, that would be your decision, but I'm not trying to tell you or.
Okay, then my next question would be, are you going to be notifying the people who have applied in recent years? Are you going to notify that they are going to be eligible for an increase in their exemption?
They may be eligible, yes.
They may be, all right, I'll use that.
So we'll have a
that-
mail, we're going to do a mailing right away.
You're going to do a mailing
Yes, to the,
with the tax bills or?
no, right
separate?
away. I mean, if we're going to implement this right away, we'll do it right away.
Okay.
Council, thank you, Mrs. Santos. Council Toronto.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I worked on the committee for this exemption. We and Mrs. Santos also, and Mr. Lombardi, Councilman Lombardi, we were on the committee. We had a couple meetings, and my understanding is that the town looks at the dollar amounts that people are getting off on a regular basis, and we have the right to change that. So we actually, George filed paperwork with the state to raise it by 10% from the old rate, okay? The changes we made were to change the age brackets a little bit. We were able to lower it from 75 to 70, so someone who now is 71 can jump up to the upper bracket a little sooner, okay? And then we increased the third bucket for the financial burden from $35,000 to $50,000. So anyone who was making more than $35,000 was not able to participate in that third bracket.
Correct.
So we increased it because we had testimony that there's some hardship that they were in, and that would be better for the seniors and
Correct.
the people in low income. One of the interesting facts is the brackets that we have from a dollar standpoint, there were people from an eligible, is a very small percentage of people that actually fall into those buckets, like 10%. The rest of the folks are just getting the standard senior veteran exemption. So, which is good. Personally, I think we need to, we can come back and look at this again at a future date. Am I fair on to say that? I mean, this is something we can look at anytime we want.
Yeah.
Sean?
Yes.
Yeah, it's an ordinance.
Okay. Because I'm going to make a recommendation at some point that we come back and look at the dollar amounts, because I believe that the dollars that we're offering are not enough. That's my opinion. And so I'd like to see us take it back at some point. I know right now, let's pass this, but at some point, go back and look at the actual amounts that are coming off for the seniors and the veterans, the dollars that go in their pockets. So at this point, I'd like to recommend that we move forward with these changes. I'm going to vote for these changes, and then down the road, we can get together and maybe look at the dollars and what else we might be able to give to the seniors and the veterans.
This is only for seniors, though.
Well, the veterans haven't changed, but I'd like to
Yeah.
look at them as well. Yeah.
Mr. Vice President?
Yeah, thank you, Dennis. Councilor Flynn.
A quick question, George, based on Councilor Toronto's query. I assume somewhere in the financial documents, it would actually say the amount of each exemption that was a total awarded.
The amount, was in my, my analysis. For at each tier, is that what you're referring to?
Yes, I assume that somewhere when the because this is new, so
This is
whenever
an expansion of an
expansion.
existing policy or ordinance.
So in the financial documents, even the existing ones, there is an amount that says how much the exemption total was.
Right, so in the levy, there are personal exemptions that are attributed, that are deducted from the gross value of the real estate to come down with the net value. So in a gross sense, they're identified there. But on an individual basis, that's what we're reading right now, what each individual is going to get.
Yeah, I would just be interested, I think, in a bottom line for the town, the big picture. How much did the town offer for relief under this program? That number is pretty readily accessible, is it
Sure.
not?
Well,
I'm guessing it's,
With the exception that we're not sure of the income, where we've increased the income level for the higher exemption amounts. We don't know that answer.
correct.
So it's not as definitive as you're looking for, so.
But in the past, we have those numbers, correct?
No, because we only collect revenue numbers up to a certain dollar amount. So if a senior citizen only earned a certain amount of money, that was above the threshold, they weren't reporting that to the town. So there's a group of people we don't know. There'll be new applicants for the increased senior exemption that we're unaware of. We've made some assumptions, but I think you're looking for something more specific than the assumptions that have been made so far.
Actually, I'm just looking for what the town has in the past offered as relief under this program, with the expectation that once these new limits go into effect, we'll have that number pretty readily handy.
Yep.
Correct, is that correct?
We hope so.
Great.
Yes.
Mrs. Sanos.
Oh, thank you, remembered me.
Well, he was, but I figured
I just
I'd never hear
wrapped
the
it
end
up.
of it if I didn't let you go next.
Go ahead, Dennis, I'll let you
No,
go.
go ahead, Mrs. Sanos.
I'm curious as to how you establish residency for a person. They have to be here 12 months of the year?
This
Or
has to be their primary residence.
Okay, they're primary, okay, I could have a primary residence here, but only live here 6 months, and then go down to Florida for 6 months, which I wouldn't do anyhow, couldn't I?
If you're filing your tax returns or, you're voting here, it's pretty much the same conversation we were having about the homestead. And people have to notarize, if they have to swear to us that this is their primary residence.
Yes, primary residence, but how long do they live in the town?
They would need to basically live in Middletown for more than half the year. In one day, is the way it works,
6 months and a day.
under state law.
Okay.
But I think her point is that we don't know that. I mean, you can be, consider this your primary residence, you can be registered to vote here, doesn't mean you vote. You could have a license in Rhode Island, you could do your tax returns here, but you could spend most of your time somewhere else. Sure.
It's possible, but, if you're choosing between
No.
paying your taxes here, being a resident here, and being a resident of Florida, from a tax standpoint, it's more beneficial to be a resident of Florida. So if someone's claiming their residency here and giving up those benefits, they're probably telling the truth.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
there's material that the assessor requires to vet that as best as we can. And
Yeah, and that's all you can do.
exactly.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Council Toronto.
Thank you, Vice President. Two things, George. How do you track all this paperwork when you get it? Because, again, we're looking at other ways of getting people in here. How do you do that?
Paper
when
files.
they come in, they file it, you put it electronically somewhere, or you just put
We
it in
keep
a
the paper
folder?
and we enter it into a spreadsheet so that we have
Okay.
everything.
And do they have to come in every year and prove it out, or is it?
If you're not claiming more, if you're claiming more than the flat, claiming for a larger exemption than the flat rate, then yeah, you come in every year.
Okay, okay. I was just curious, because I know it's probably a lot of paper, a lot of filing and all
Well,
that.
yeah, I think we get there are 1,100 exemptions given out, and 900 of them are flat exemptions.
Okay.
So it's a smaller percentage of the total population that receives the exemption that we actually track.
Do we have a feeling for the percentage of seniors that actually apply for this exemption in Middletown?
No. I don't
So
know,
we don't know
I
how
don't know
many
the total
seniors we have?
population. I don't know the total population. If I had a total count.
Okay. Well, I've talked to a number of seniors, and they said, let's find good vehicles to get this paperwork out so they can learn how to fill it out and what the program is all about. And so there has been conversations of maybe having something at the senior center where we have a couple people sitting there helping people fill out the forms and things along those lines.
I
So we
have
might call
spoken
you
to
on
the
that.
seniors at the senior center.
I think they do
Arlene's
that
been great to
currently.
work with. Chris, anytime I call them, they're very happy to help me out.
I want to thank you and Sean for your help on this and helping pull these numbers together, so thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, George.
Thank you, George.
Okay, any further discussion? This is the second reading.
Motion to adopt said ordinance in its second reading.
Okay, any further discussion? We have a motion to second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Let's move on to number 29. Number 29, an ordinance of the Town of Middletown. This is the second reading. An ordinance amendment to the Town Code, Title 11, General Regulations, Chapter 98, Short-Term Residential Leases, Section 98.08, Fee and Section 98.99, Enforcement. Penalty for violation, see attached ordinance.
This has been continued to the May 6, 2019 regular meeting of the Town Council. Second.
We have a motion to second.
I have a question.
To continue. Discussion.
If I have a question for the solicitor in regards to recusing myself, should I just do a sidebar with him on that? or-
Yeah, I wouldn't take any chances.
Sure.
Yeah,
Well, okay, I'll talk to Peter about it.
okay. We have a motion to second, continue, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Town Council, number 30, at the request of council and body, resolution of the council with enclosures in reference to support of legislation to establish an Ocean State Climate Adaptation and Resiliency Fund. Oscar.
This has been continued to the motion to receive this.
Motion to continue.
You want to say it?
No, motion to continue.
Motion to continue to the next meeting, May 6th of the regular council meeting. Second.
Motion to second, continue, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Number 31, by vote of the council, April 1st, 2019, in reference to discussion of homestead exemption, setting parameters to move forward.
Motion to continue this item to the May 6th, 2019 regular meeting of the Town Council. Second.
We have a motion to second to continue to May 6, 2019, regular meeting of the council. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, number 32, memorandum of Council Flynn in reference to neighborhood stability.
Motion to continue this item to May 6, 2019 regular meeting of the Town Council. Second.
We have a motion and a second to continue this item to May 6, 2019, regular meeting of the council. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Town Administrator, number 33, memorandum of Finance Director through Town Administrator with enclosures in reference to amendments 3 and 4, Newport Avenue realignment and Lower Aquidneck Avenue streetscape, Purgatory Road sidewalk design.
Motion to receive said communication. Second.
Motion is second. I gladly receive this memorandum. All in favor?
Aye.
Sean?
This evening, the administration is requesting the town council approve a change order in the amount of $104,850 for consulting engineering services related to expanding the sidewalks from Aquidneck Avenue in an easterly direction on Purgatory Avenue to Second Beach. A number of meetings ago, the town council reviewed this project when the planner was reviewing changes to the state's Transportation Improvement Program. And during that discussion, what we addressed was that this was a project that the town wanted to see completed, and that by completing the design, we'd be able to work with the Department of Transportation to accelerate the actual construction of the sidewalk. We've reached out to VHB, who is doing the engineering on Lower Aquidneck Avenue, and they've provided a price. The first price, $69,900, represents the cost of design and permitting for the project, and the second dollar amount, $34,950, addresses the field survey and base mapping that's necessary in order to install the sidewalks. As several of you are aware, the town has been successful in the past in taking this approach, and it's certainly a way to help accelerate getting this important pedestrian connection made between the business district and really our main attraction, which is Satchew's Point, the Satchew's Point area.
Yeah.
So,
So Sean, what side would the sidewalks be on? The northern side of Purgatory or the southern side of Purgatory?
we don't know yet.
We don't know yet,
Yeah,
okay.
we'd have to determine that. I
Okay.
think that goes back to stormwater and utilities.
And it would go from like Tickets all the way up to Second Beach?
Exactly.
And at the same time, we'd probably have to have a crosswalk depending upon, if it's on the southerly side, we'd have to have maybe several crosswalks.
Correct.
But that's actually a state road, correct?
It is.
Yeah, so we'd have to petition state for that, so, okay, and that's part of this?
Yes, that would be part of the project. So we'd have, our goal, similar to Lower Quinnick Avenue, is we'd have plans, we'd turn them over to DOT. We would have a discussion to see whether they would administer the project or do what we did on the West Main Road in the past, where we've constructed sidewalks and gotten reimbursed.
Yeah, and I think this is fantastic. I mean, this is something that's been long overdue, and of course, everything comes down to dollars and cents, right? But we're there with this Lower Quinnick Avenue project, and I think it's really good that we petition the state for, if we're doing this, like we did down at Valley and Green End years ago, whatever it was, 8-10 years ago now. We paid for the engineering, they moved it up on the list, and it got accomplished, because all we did was talk about it for about 20 years, and nothing ever got accomplished. So I think this is fantastic, and hopefully it becomes fruitful.
Clarification, Mr. Vice President?
Yes.
So this is a change order, $104,000. No opposition to what's being proposed naturally. And so that is for it's not for the work, it's for the planning of the work.
Correct.
And this is this a TIP project?
It is.
Do we typically, I might have missed some of the phases, do we typically pay for the planning part of the work, or we're doing that, we're going to get reimbursed? You said something, I
Well,
wasn't quite sure I followed the path of the money.
Typically on a TIP project, it's on a list.
Yeah,
And
correct.
depends what the state prioritizes that list. I mean, we prioritize it to them, each community does. And then, based on certain criteria, Sean, maybe you can speak to that better than I can, it falls where it falls. We haven't been too successful with that in the past, just letting it take its course. What we have been successful with was partnering with the state, saying, listen, we'd like to accomplish this project. It's been on our TIPS list for years, and I'm specifically speaking to Valley Road in Green End. It never got accomplished. So we partnered with them. We'll pay for the engineering and the planning. What are your thoughts? They got it done. Within a couple of years, it was done. I mean, we had talked about Green and Valley for probably 20 years. Councils before I was ever involved. So that's kind of why, yes, it's $100,000, but it's a quality of life issue, it's a safety issue, it's something that we can actually get done, hopefully, and they can come back and say, well, yeah, if you're gonna plan for that and pretty much pay for it.
Correct. And I think in
So-
discussions I've had with DOT, they are looking for some of these type of projects. A lot of money's been funneled out of projects at the department to pay, plan and pay for the bridge realignment. So as projects are fully engineered, shovel-ready, there will be money to basically prioritize those projects. But as Paul said, waiting for the engineering could take 2 decades. This project is another project, I think, Paul, we've talked about as long as I've been here.
Yeah.
So, you've been here
So
a
if
little
we
longer.
say we'll front the planning part of it to move it up the list, what does that mean, move it up the list? I would hate to say and pay for this planning and then wait another 5 years. So would this,
Well, we'll
or
have-
is that better than waiting another 15 years? I'm
Well,
just-
once,
yes.
if we approve this, doesn't mean it gets spent. Sean will have, his team staff will have a discussion with DOT to figure out whether they can move, and they'll come back and say, yes, we can move forward with this, or we can't. We're not gonna pay for planning, to my understanding, if there's no guarantee that it's gonna get done.
This would all be part of the bigger discussion with Lower Aquinic Avenue.
Okay.
And if we didn't approve it and we just let it take its course, it's on a list somewhere. You said it's been on a list for a long time. How far up the list is it at this point?
I don't think I'd ever see it here, while I work for the town.
Okay, so it's
It
not
will-
even, you can't even see it at this point?
I don't think it will, and Ron's more familiar with the scoring. I don't know that it bumps up high enough relative to the east and west main roads, bridge realignment. Bridge realignment's gonna push everything out at least 5 years. It's 2 years to get the bridge fixed. We had a briefing last week, 3 to 5 years before the bridge realignment's done, so now you're 7 years out. These things.
And not only that, Sean, but it also stands such a much better chance because not only engineering and the planning's done, they're there with that, what they're doing down in Lower Aquinic. They're there, so it's gonna be cheaper to do sidewalks because they're already mobilized on site, performing other things and other sidewalks down there. So we're just trying to see if we can't get a jump on that and say, hey, look, tie this in together as one project, and we can get that accomplished.
No, I think I follow that, but they could still say no. Is that true? Even if we offer this, they could say,
Sure.
we don't have the manpower,
Yeah.
we don't have the supplies, we don't have the other things that we need.
It's just money.
That's all it is.
So, speaking of the money, can you just explain again how we're paying for that out of this capital improvement special revenue fund? I know that I got an email late from you and I wasn't quite sure how to read that.
It's coming out of the Capital Improvement Special Revenue Fund. So the Public Works Department has monies that were budgeted for paving, road maintenance kind of things. It hasn't all been spent out, so we'll reallocate the $104,000 from some of that maintenance work over to design. Again, looking at the sidewalks in that area as a priority. I can say for myself, I ride my bike in that section of road 5 times a week. It is probably the most unsafe part of my day when I ride from Middletown to Newport. It's a tough section, whether you're riding up the road or trying to get across it. I think residents at Tuckerman actually have put out the orange flags at the crosswalk. It's a pretty scary
Dennis.
area.
Well,
Yeah.
it was, well, that's.
No, but it's, that's,
Get my vest on.
it's a tough area. There's a lot of speed through
Yeah.
there. The road's very narrow. There's drainage issues, and
Well, for those reasons alone, it seems to me that the Department of Transportation would have an incentive to do the sidewalks without our financial
Yeah,
throw-in.
no.
Just saying, it's
know,
a safety issue. They should be doing the sidewalks. It's been on for a long time.
Logic would tell you that,
No.
but practicality,
nope. We did
Government.
the pathway at Purgatory Park
Yeah.
after Michael Strickland was struck
Yeah.
up by the other intersection of Purgatory, but they put the pathway behind the guide rail, but it's still the same project. We need to get the sidewalks and the safety improvements completed.
okay. Councilor Toronto.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Sean, does the town have a preference of what side they want that sidewalk on? Because, on the south side of Purgatory, there's a pretty good-sized trench that's on the right side where that road's being a little bit compromised. When I think of that sidewalk, that's kind of the side I was thinking it was going to be on, but is there any preference or?
I think we'd have to look at the right-of-way. I don't know where is the road in the center of the right-of-way, or is it to one side or the other? I think that's really the key. Tom's here, trying to ignore me. I don't know if you have any observations.
Well, I think a lot of that is dependent upon,
Where the
or
util-
subject to the utilities that are there currently. It's like Aquinic Avenue. We had a sewer in the gutter for years on that side of the road, and there's telephone poles in the gutter, so that's why it's cheaper for the state to put them on the other side of the road. So those are things that need to be factored in, I don't want to steal your thunder, but I just couldn't help it.
No, that's exactly right. Once they get out and do the field survey and we take a look at what infrastructure is on both sides of the road, exactly where the right-of-way is, the limits, It's possibly in some ways shifted probably a little bit closer, maybe to the south side, but I'm not 100% sure. And sometimes the road width varies. So, and again, looking at the long-term plan and getting down to Second Beach, we have to determine what's the safest side in that vicinity, and that may rank higher priority when we choose which side to come down. So that way we limit, possibly limit crossing actually Purgatory Road and just cross just only the side streets. So all those things have to be balanced out.
Okay, and just the guardrail that goes down the hill, is that owned by the state?
That's a tough one. If there's a car accident, the good news is the insurance company's always paid for it. So in most cases, we haven't really done a tremendous amount of maintenance on it because unfortunately, it has been struck several times. And again, those repairs were done by the insurance companies and not the town or the state.
Yeah, I was just curious, because I think it's banged up pretty good.
Tom, can you use the small microphone? That's the one that's working.
Sorry.
Yeah, I just noticed that it's, we've done such great work down there, and that's been pretty banged up. I didn't know if that was the state who was responsible for that, or,
Well, we just have
when
to-
it does need replaces, or it's decided to replace it as part of this project, maybe? If it's
Again, we have to look
state-funded,
at, we have to look at
state-owned?
what the safety, what the benefits are. As Sean mentioned earlier, that right now, the current walkway is on the back side of the guardrail.
Right.
We have to have the engineers evaluate if that is the safest location for that walkway. And then from there, the recommendations will come up and most likely, they will present the options and benefits and challenges for both options to the south or the north side.
Okay, thanks.
Councilor Santos.
My question is to Mr. Brown. With this, and I have just one question, with this discussion on Purgatory, the sidewalks, are you telling me that Purgatory will get the sidewalks first instead of Aquidneck Avenue?
I knew she was
No.
Huh?
I knew she was just
No,
No?
no.
Why not?
Aquidneck Avenue is scheduled for construction next year.
It's already scheduled.
That doesn't mean it's going to get done.
No, and just, I mean, we're a little bit off topic, so I know we've received roughly 30% designs.
That's correct.
And the staff has been meeting with DOT, passing comments back and forth to get to 90% design here relatively shortly. But the Aquidneck Avenue will be going out to bid for construction next season.
Next season?
Not this, it will go out, probably after the summer sometime in the early fall. Late summer, early fall, that will go out to bid.
Go out to bid, and then they will start construction in 2012. 2020.
2020. Correct. So so I know one of the things, we passed a list of businesses that they need to meet with. There's a number of businesses that we're familiar with that get deliveries and stop traffic and other issues along the corridor. They need to work those issues out. But yeah, it's going to happen.
Let's stay on
Cookies.
subject. Let's stay on
Cookies,
track.
they won't get done in 2020.
Mr. Vice
Cookies.
President?
They will be digging it up, and your phone will ring, and it's going to be a long project, so.
So do you want your cookies now, or do you want it after they start?
Oh, I'll need them while the project's going on, so
When that thing's complete, I'm placing my own ribbon up there, and you're going to cut it.
I would love that.
Yes.
I look forward to it.
Councilor Flynn.
So back to the special revenue fund, the whole sewer cleaning stuff went on in the Easton's Point area over the last summer and through the winter and whatnot. There's no road work in that fund that would go towards that project, correct? Because you're saying that you have this overage, this money that has not been spent or doesn't need to be spent on anything?
We have a whole list of road repairs, yes, it will be spent. So there will be some work that's deferred, yes,
To get the 104,000?
yes.
So it's not extra money, you're just not going to do some things?
We're managing money.
Okay. Do we know what's not going to get done?
We can give you a list of the outstanding work. And it would be the, you know, basically the $104,000 that's at the bottom of the list. But, I mean, that's part of what we need to do is, and that's part of why that money, you know, Tom doesn't go out and spend all of it at one time. Unfortunately, the conditions of the roads change, and we need to be adaptive to priorities. So we can provide from the list the $104,000 that will be deferred. And at this point, I mean, the council will look at, well, you're already looking at next year's budget, so you're funding, there's a certain amount of money that was there, 140 will be moved over, you'll be funding another $650,000 into maintenance, and it would be the $140,000 at the bottom of that list, so. It's not, you know, I think with the questions or the dialogue, there's considerable consideration for what work is getting done. It's a planned program. So I don't really have it's not like an answer of 4. Like, I think we'd have to demonstrate what's at the bottom of the list.
So there's no risk, I'm not sure if this list is definitive with whatever the pot of money was designated for, and if there's any liability to not doing the things that are on the list or using the money for something different?
If there was a liability, we would address it, or I would bring it to the council's attention. I think I've never been hesitant about that.
I guess I would like to know what's not getting done, just in case it's something that is actually more important than the sidewalk. I don't know. I'd like to have the sidewalk, don't get me wrong. I think it's important. I think it's a safety issue. I think DOT should have stepped up a long time ago. But I think that's part of the puzzle or the decision, is to know it's not going to get done. I thought it was extra money that wasn't being spent on anything.
We have no extra money.
No doubt in my mind.
Okay.
What about, could I suggest,
Hang on one second.
could I just suggest or inquire about that, the Rescue Wagon Fund that the speakers were going to be bought for with $100,000, and it's a safety issue. Could that be considered instead of not doing something?
You basically have the same problem. We don't have extra money in the Rescue Wagon Fund. Again, we would sit down, we would look at what the priorities are, and those get managed over, in the case, just sort of like with the paving, it's over a 5-year to 6-year period. So you have, you know, again, going back to the capital improvement program, you're looking at what you currently have as well as what the 5-year spend is going out 5 years. If you look at the capital improvement program, and I can provide the balances to you, you have basically the same issue where you would be taking money out of that fund and using it for a road project, but.
Well, I understand, but we were just considering, or it was proposed to the council to use that Rescue Wagon Fund to the tune of $100,000 some odd for speakers for the beach for safety purposes. This seems to me like a critical safety purpose that we could use that money for, since we did not vote to purchase the speakers, and we could get the sidewalks and keep our residents safe and not forego work in the street paving projects.
We haven't funded a road project out of the Rescue Wagon Fund. It's really outside the boundaries of what we used it for.
Well, but you said that the fund was for safety purposes, which is why you could spend the money, or you were proposing to spend the money on
I can review in
speakers.
detail what's in that fund and how we've spent it historically. It's historically been used for equipment for the police and fire department for public health and safety issues. We've also used it for public works apparatus related to health and safety issues, but not to fund capital projects, infrastructure for road or drinking water or projects like that. We are funding the road project, as I've recommended, with a funding source that's typically been used to it. I don't understand the rationale with trying to rush over to a fund that we haven't used for capital infrastructure.
Well, the logic is so that things don't go undone that are already on a list and funded.
So if I was to look at the Rescue Wagon Fund, so at the end of '20, right now, the program budget is $51,495. So moving the dollar amount of the 100,000 would put that fund in a negative balance for fiscal year '20. For fiscal year '21, we have a program balance of $4,857. That would put the fund in a negative balance of $100,000.
Is this the Rescue Wagon Fund?
It is.
Weren't we just talking about speakers that cost more than $100,000 to be paid for from that fund?
Right, but you have to look at the fact that we program out the capital purchases for 5 years. We just don't look at it from year to year. So again, we would have moved some dollars around for the speakers. I think, if we're going to talk about the speakers, I think we have to categorize the system differently. So we're looking at a system, you know what, I think we're way off track.
Yeah, let's move on.
We're
Maybe
shifting.
I didn't understand how the speaker money was moving, which is,
What I take away from this, and I've seen it time and time again, is exactly what he said, is that, and I understand where you're going, the rationale, I get that. But you got a pool of money, and there's certain buckets you can take from and certain buckets you shouldn't take from. In this particular case, we have an opportunity to change priorities, where something at the bottom of the road paving list may not be as prioritized as something that comes up where we can accomplish a sidewalk all the way down the road. So it's council's choice of, if you're in favor of it, vote for it. If you're not, I don't mean that in a bad way, I'm just saying then, but I understand your
I was
rationale.
hoping to do both, to get the sidewalk
Go
and
like
to
this,
get the
to go-
paving
and go
done.
like this, I mean, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, that's what happens. So it's, you're gonna take from here when the priority changes, and those things happen in the course of a budget season.
Well, if there's-
So-
And there's no way, Mr. Brown, you're pretty savvy with the figures, that we can get both, that we can get our sidewalk planning and we can get that which is on the list for paving done?
Again, you could give me another $5 million, and I couldn't spend it to fix all the roads. And
I'm just talking about what's on the list. Just yes or no, there's no other way to get both.
You're never going to get both. You have to make smart decisions on where you spend your next dollar. And that's what we do. And that's why it's on the dais, and that's why we talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Council Flynn. Thank you, Sean. Okay, so we were on number 34, resolution of the council in reference to amendments 3 and 4, Newport Avenue realignment and... Oh, I'm sorry. Do I have a sheet?
Yes. I gave it to
Oh, I do.
Councilor Santos.
I do. I'm sorry, Mr. Viveras. Step right on up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President, members of the council. When I saw this, it sort of lit up the bell, and you took some of my thunder away with the explanation of Green End and Valley Road, because I remember that we, DOT, when they worked on that, we thought we could make some changes to make that intersection safer, and the deal was that they would do the work, but we had to pay for the engineering. But there was a dollar figure on the work. So if the work cost more than that figure, we would be on the hook for it. That's my only caution.
Yeah, I don't recall
caution
that.
on
Maybe
this.
that was the case, but we'd have to defer that to Sean. I don't recall that we being on the hook for it. But maybe that was the case.
It was estimated a certain, my memory, was a certain, estimated to cost a certain amount of money.
Yep.
And we pay for the engineering, but if it went over that amount of money, then we would have to make up the difference. That was my only real question on this, because as far as safety goes, I think that would be a, pretty good investment. I don't adhere to borrowing money from the Rescue Wagon Fund, because since the PPV money is going to pay for the bond for the police station and the addition to the fire station, we're using the wagon fund, and I'm leery that when we need a new rescue wagon, we don't want to get into the same predicament that Tiverton's in. So, thank you.
Thank you, Anton.
Question, Mr. Vice
Yes,
President?
Councilor Flynn.
So, Sean, based on what Mr. Vivero said, if DOT said to you, well, this is great, and we'll go forward and we'll spend X amount, but if it's over that, you spend it, do you come back to the council and say, they've counter-offered and there's a limit on what they'll do?
Yep, and I can give you a perfect example. So the council desired to prioritize the reconstruction of McQuinnick Avenue. The planner and I met with DOT over several meetings, and a decision or discussion happened where two things occurred. One is we prioritized some projects on the tip over others. Another decision was to forego the improvement of a slip lane at the intersection of Forest Avenue and West Main Road. That was brought to the council, and we were basically able to create the savings by foregoing the intersection at Forest and West Main to fund the project on McQuinnick Avenue. That was brought back to the council, and that was approved. So again, we have a lot of flexibility, but we have to create the opportunity
Correct.
to make those decisions and have those dialogues, and that's what this engineering study represents.
Okay. All right, number 34. Resolution of the council in reference to amendments 3 and 4, Newport Avenue realignment and lower Quinnick Avenue streetscape, Purgatory Road sidewalk design.
Motion to pass said resolution. Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Number 35, memorandum of finance director and tax assessor with enclosures in reference to collector abatements.
Motion to receive said memorandum. Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Number 36, resolution of the council in reference to collector abatements, cancellation of the taxes for Middletown residents.
Motion to pass said resolution. Second.
Motion is second to pass said resolution. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
We take a 5-minute break.
Yeah, we need a 5-minute break. Yeah, maybe?
5-minute break.
Let's just move along.
Okay.
Yeah. So that concludes the regular meeting. We're going to go into executive session. Thank you, everybody. Executive session number 37, executive session pursuant to provisions of Rhode Island General Law, sections 42, 46-2, 42.